So today we'll discuss about the laryngotracheal trauma. Okay, and also stridor. So I'll cover two topics today: stridor and the laryngotracheal trauma. Okay. So trauma to the larynx, it may be due to the blunt injury or the sharp injuries. So most of the time the trauma to the larynx usually because of the road traffic accidents. Okay. So most common is the automobile accidents. So if they put a sudden brake, so the neck strikes against the steering wheel or the instrument panel in the front of the four wheeler. So that is the most common injury to the larynx. And also blow or kick at the neck. And third one is the neck striking against the stretch wire of the cable. And strangulation, penetrating injuries with the sharp instruments or the gunshot wounds. So these are the five etiological agents for the laryngotracheal trauma. So most common is the automobile accidents while traveling in the road. If there is any sudden obstruction in the road, so they will put the sudden brake that will cause the injury to the neck. So that is the most common cause. So then coming to the pathology of the laryngotracheal trauma. So the pathology or severity of the laryngotracheal trauma may depend upon the severity of the injury. So severity of the injury, you will see the pathological changes in the larynx or the neck. So these pathological changes, simple hematoma or edema of the supraglottis or subglottic region. So if it is a mild injury, mild blunt injury, you will see this kind of hematoma of the larynx. That may be in the supraglottis or subglottis. So then tears in the laryngeal mucosa or the pharyngeal mucosa, dislocation of the cricoarytenoid joint. The arytenoid cartilage may be displaced anteriorly or dislocated or avulsed from the cricoarytenoid cricoid cartilage. So complete avulsion of the arytenoid cartilage or displacement of the arytenoid cartilage and dislocation of the cricothyroid joint. Cricothyroid joint dislocation. So this dislocation may cause the injury to the recurrent laryngeal. So that is important. If you are seeing on examination, if there is any vocal cord paralysis, you should suspect some cricothyroid joint problem. So the other problems, other pathological changes due to the trauma to the neck may be fractures of the hyoid bone, fractures of the thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, or upper tracheal rings, or sometimes if it is a severe injury, there is complete separation of the trachea from the larynx. So that is cricotracheal separation. So depending upon the severity of the trauma, we will see these changes. Hematoma of the supraglottis and subglottis, tears in the pharyngeal mucosa of the laryngeal mucosa, dislocation of the cricoarytenoid joint and the cricothyroid joint, fractures of the hyoid bone, thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, first tracheal ring, and finally complete separation of the larynx from the trachea. So depending upon the severity, the clinical symptoms also may be vary. So that is respiratory distress or the breathing difficulty or hoarseness of voice or aphonia. If the vocal cords are involved or if there is edema in the supraglottis subglottic region, then you will see the hoarseness of voice or aphonia and also respiratory distress. So during inspiration, there should be adequate space for the respiration, inspiration for expiration. So if there is any edema in the glottic region or subglottic, supraglottic region, definitely they'll have some breathing difficulty. So painful and difficulty in swallowing, vocal pain in the larynx, especially while talking or while swallowing, hemoptysis or bloodstained sputum. Hemoptysis is nothing but bloodstained sputum. This is you will see if there is any trauma to the mucosa. So mucosal tear to the larynx or the pharynx. Signs on examination, so you should examine the patient depending upon the severity. If the patient is stable, well cooperative, if it is a mild injury, you can examine the patient in the OPD outpatient department by using the indirect laryngoscopic mirror. So So if there is trauma is very severe, then you need to use the laryngoscope, flexible laryngoscope or direct laryngoscope, depending upon the patient situation and also availability of the instruments. So you need to assess the patient, then decide how to examine the patient. So on examination, if it is a mild blunt injury to the neck, you can see the bruising or abrasions over the skin over the neck. Palpation of the laryngeal area is the painful if there is a blunt injury to the neck. So if you palpate the laryngeal cartilage, then it will be tender in touch. So there may be a subcutaneous emphysema. You can feel the crepitus if there is any tears in the pharyngeal mucosa or laryngeal mucosa, then they develop the subcutaneous emphysema. So you need to palpate with your fingers. So then you can feel the crepitus. So that subcutaneous emphysema will be increased during the cough. So because there is a more air leakage into the subcutaneous tissue, then there will be a more subcutaneous emphysema during the cough. Flattening of the thyroid prominence and contour of the anterior cervical region and thyroid knot may be disappeared in some cases. So if there is a fracture of the thyroid cartilage, there will be a loss of the thyroid prominence. This is Adam's apple. There will be a flattening of the anterior laryngeal cartilage and you cannot palpate the laryngeal thyroid knot superiorly. So fracture displacement of the thyroid cartilage or cricoid cartilage or myoid bone, and you can feel the gap may be felt between the fractured fragments of these bones or cartilages. So that is the bony crepitus. So bony crepitus between the fragments of the hyoid bone you can feel thyroid or cricoid cartilage. And separation of the cricoid cartilage from the larynx or trachea. So separation of the cricoid cartilage from the larynx, above from the larynx or below from the upper tracheal region. So these are the signs of palpation. So then you can examine the patient as I told. So if the patient is stable, you can do the indirect laryngoscopy. So indirect laryngoscopy, as you all know about the procedure of the indirect laryngoscopy. So this is a simple OPD procedure. Ask the patient to sit in front of you, and then ask the patient to widely open the mouth and use the indirect laryngoscopic mirror. So because this is not the direct examination, we are examining the larynx by using the mirror. So that's why this is called the indirect laryngoscopy. So if patient condition permits, so that means if it is a mild injury, patient is stable, then you can do this procedure. Otherwise, it is difficult. So this picture shows the normal structures what we will see in the indirect laryngoscopic examination. So this is the epiglottis, this is the true vocal cords, false vocal cord, array-epiglottic folds, arachnoid cartilage. This is the posterior pharyngeal wall, this is the base of the tongue, this is the vallecula and this is the pyriform fossa. These are the normal structures we will see in the indirect laryngoscopic examination. So this is important because you need to assess the patient. Patient is stable, generally you should attempt this examination, that is the indirect laryngoscopic examination. So in these areas, if there is any trauma, edema, or if there is any vocal cord paralysis, edema of the epiglottis, edema of the supraglottic region, or the avulsion of the cricoid cartilage, all these changes you can examine the, you can see in the indirect laryngoscopy. So if the patient is stable or a little bit more severe injury, then you can go for the flexible laryngoscopy. So this is the direct laryngoscopy, this is the flexible laryngoscopy. Direct laryngoscopy, so you need to do under general anesthesia or by using the local anesthesia. So this is more dangerous because you are using more force towards the larynx. So nowadays, almost we are not using the direct laryngoscopy for examination of the patients with a severe laryngeal injury. So flexible scopy is useful, more useful. So you can pass this small flexible scope through the nostrils. So this is then it goes into the nasopharynx, oropharynx, then into the hypopharynx and larynx. So you can visualize the laryngeal structures under magnification by using this flexible laryngoscopy. So direct laryngoscopy, flexible laryngoscopy. So direct laryngoscopy, it may precipitate the laryngeal obstruction because we use more force towards the laryngeal inlet. So that's why these cases there is a more aggravation of the symptoms. That's why we use the flexible scope rather than the direct rigid laryngoscope. So the other investigation is the X-ray, X-rays of the neck. So soft tissue lateral view of the neck is very useful. So it will reveal any subcutaneous emphysema, any other fractures in the, this is the head bone fracture or fracture in the thyroid cartilage, fracture in the cricoid cartilage, or fractures in the this upper tracheal ring or first tracheal ring, displacement of the epiglottis, edema of the supraglottic region. All these changes you can see in the X-ray, soft tissues, neck, lateral. So the other radiological investigation is the CT scan, CT scan of the neck. So nowadays we are using the 3D CT scan of the laryngeal cartilages and the hyoid bone, so that you can see the clear fractures in the hyoid bone of the thyroid cartilage and cricoid cartilage. All those minute details you can see in the this 3D CT scan of the neck. So these are the normal CT scan pictures. These are the 3D CT scan. So always you should assess the patients with the laryngeal injury if there is any associated other injuries like head injury or chest injury or abdominal injury or any other upper limb or lower limb injuries. So you need to rule out the other fractures in the body and you need to assess the general condition of the patient before attempting any treatment for the patient. So X-ray test and gastrography to rule out any pneumothorax, you need to take this X-ray test PAView. So on gastrography swallow, that is radiopaque dye, so to rule out any esophageal PS may be required in these laryngeal injury patients. So this is about the evaluation of the patient with the laryngeal injury. So you can do the indirect laryngoscopy, direct laryngoscopy or flexible laryngoscopy, X-ray or CT scan of the neck. Then other injuries, to rule out the other injuries, you need to take the ultrasound abdomen or X-ray of the abdomen and chest X-ray and the gastrographic swallow, that is the radiopaque dye swallow, to rule out any esophageal PS. So these are the evaluation of the patient. Clinical history is important and science and examination and also these investigations. So then coming to treatment, so depending upon the severity of the condition of the patient, you can observe the patient or you can directly go for the surgical treatment. Conservative treatment is first we need to admit the patient if you are suspecting any direct laryngeal trauma. So hospitalize the patient because there is a chance of development of the edema within 24 hours of the injury. If there is any edema, then they develop the sudden respiratory obstruction on the stridor. So respiratory distress on the stridor. So that's why you need to admit the hospitalize the patient, observe for the any respiratory problems, and complete voice test is important. So while phonation, there is a movement of the vocal cords and adduction of the vocal cords that will cause the pain. So to prevent that, ask the patient for the absolute voice test if there is any pain during talking. Medication of the inspired air or oxygen supplementation, steroid therapy. So if you are suspecting any edema in the laryngeal mucosa, immediate steroid administration, IV steroids is helpful. So this steroid treatment will, systemic steroids will reduce the edema and also if there is any hematoma. So these steroids will reduce the edema and the hematoma of the laryngeal lesion and also it will prevent the scarring and the stenosis. So later complications of this trauma, it will prevent the scarring and stenosis in the later. So antibiotics are given to prevent the pericarditis. If there is open injuries, then we should go for the antibiotic treatment to prevent the pericarditis and also to prevent the necrosis, cartilage necrosis. We should give the antibiotic treatment. So the mainstay of treatment is hospitalize the patient, observe for any respiratory problems, voice test, inhaled oxygen, and steroid therapy, and also antibiotics. So then coming to the surgical treatment, so if the patient is already having the severe respiratory distress or stridor, then we should go for the immediately tracheostomy. So these patients, endotracheal intubation is difficult because of the edema in the laryngeal region. So we can't pass the endotracheal tube in between the vocal cords, and it may further injury the further damage the mucosa of the larynx or laryngeal inlet or subglottic region. So that's why direct tracheostomy is more useful or more helpful in patients with the severe laryngeal injury. So directly we need to make the stomach tracheotomy or making a opening in the anterior wall of the trachea and removing the part of the tracheal ring that is called the converting into a stoma, and it will open into the anterior surface of the neck, that is the tracheostomy. So next class we will discuss in detail about the tracheostomy. Tracheostomy is a very important question for you in the final examination. So there is separate class for the tracheostomy. So if there is any fractures in the CT scan or X-ray showing the fractures of the thyroid cartilage or hyoid bone, then you need to go for the fixation of these fractured fragments by using the open reduction. We need to do the incision and expose the hyoid bone and thyroid cartilage. So after 3 to 5 days or at least before 10 days, by using the titanium mini plates. So this picture is showing the fracture of the thyroid cartilage. They have fixed with these titanium mini plates and the screws. So that is usually done between the third to fifth day. So fractures of the hyoid bone, thyroid cartilage or cricoid cartilage, we need to do the open reduction at the closure. On mucosal lacerations, if there is any laceration of the laryngeal mucosa, we need to report. We need to suture with the catgut. So this catgut is the absorbable suture material. No need to remove the sutures again. Absorbable suture material. So we need to suture the lacerated laryngeal mucosa or the pharyngeal mucosa. Epiglottis. If you need to observe the epiglottis, it is anchored in its normal position. So if there is any displacement of the epiglottis, again we need to suture it back into the normal position by using the absorbable suture materials. So if already it is completely separated from the thyroid bone and the thyroid cartilage, then you need to excise the part of the epiglottis or total epiglottis. Arytenoid cartilages also, if they are displaced, try to replace into the normal position. If they are completely avulsed from the cricoarytenoid joint, then you need to remove the arytenoid cartilage. So in severe injuries, if there is complete separation of the larynx from the trachea, that is the laryngotracheal separation, then we need to do the end-to-end anastomosis. So we need to give the incision in the upper neck and expose the upper tracheal ring and the cricoid cartilage, then suture these two. That is called the end-to-end anastomosis. So to prevent the stenosis, further stenosis, later complications, so we need to use the laryngeal stent or silicone tube, which they have to be kept for the 6 weeks. So after 6 weeks, we need to remove that stent or tube, silicone tube. So if anterior commission, then we need to separate the ring and we need to place the silicone seal or silastic seal. So this is the silastic seal in this picture. So this is the web from the both medial borders of the complications. So complications due to the trauma. So laryngeal stenosis. So later there is a stenosis of the larynx in the supraglottis, glottis, and subglottis because of the edema and also these injuries. Submucosal edema and the fibrous tissue formation. There is a laryngeal stenosis, pericarditis, and the laryngeal abscess because of the secondary infection due to the exposed wounds and vocal cord paralysis. So these are the late complications of the laryngotracheal trauma. Okay. So this is about the trauma to the larynx or laryngotracheal injuries. So once again, I'll go through quickly. So most common cause is the road traffic accident or blow or kick on the neck, neck injury or penetrating injuries, strangulation. These are the etiological agents to the laryngeal injuries. So pathology, depending upon the severity of the injury, you can see the edema or hematoma formation in supraglottis or subglottis. Tears in the laryngeal mucosa, dislocation of the cricoarytenoid joint or cricothyroid joint, fractures of the hyoid bone, thyroid cartilage, cricoid cartilage, upper tracheal ring, and sometimes complete separation of the trachea from the larynx. So clinical symptoms: respiratory distress or apnea, or painful swallowing or painful talking or speech, and hemoptysis. Those are the symptoms. Signs you can see the through your abrasions over the anterior part of the neck, markers of the laryngeal area is the painful or tenderness, subcutaneous emphysema, flattening of the thyroid cord, prominence or loss of the thyroid notch, cannot feel the thyroid notch, and fracture displacement of the thyroid cartilage or cricoid cartilage. These fractures and displacements mostly will be in the elders because of these cartilages are formed by the eyelid cartilage and lateral there is a calcification. After 25 years of age, there is a calcification so that they will become the more stiff. So the chances of the fractures are more in adults compared to the children. So bony crepitus, if you are feeling the bony crepitus, definitely that confirms the fractures in the hyoid bone or thyroid cartilage and separation of the cricoid cartilage from the lower tracheal rings or the larynx. So examination, clinical examination by using the indirect laryngoscopy if the patient is stable, or by using the flexible laryngoscopy, direct laryngoscopy, X-ray and CT scan of the neck to exactly to know the extension of these injuries or severity of the injuries. So then finally we need to assess the patient, any other injuries in the head and neck region or chest or abdomen, and X-ray test to rule out the pneumothorax and gastrographin, contrast study of the esophagus to rule out the esophageal tears or communication between the esophagus and the trachea. So if the patient is stable and without any severe symptoms, you can admit the patient, observe for the respiratory symptoms, then ask the patient for the complete voice test or absolute voice test. Notification of the inspired air, steroid therapy and the antisteroids is important. Mainstay of treatment with the blood injury to the neck to prevent the edema and to prevent the further respiratory complications. Antibiotic to prevent the cartilage necrosis and the development of the pericarditis if there is any exposed wounds or exposed cartilages of the laryngeal fiber. Surgical treatment is tracheostomy. If the patient presents with the severe respiratory distress, you cannot intubate the patient with the endotracheal tube because of the edema in the laryngeal region. Directly, you need to open the trachea, the second and third tracheal rings, that is the tracheostomy. If there is any fractures after subsidence of the acute symptoms after giving the 3 to 4 days this adequate antibiotics and the steroids, then you need to go for this surgical repair of the thyroid bone, thyroid cartilage or cricoid cartilage by using the titanium mini plates and the screws. Fractures of the thyroid bone, mucosal lacerations, epiglottis and the arachnoid cartilage, you need to examine and treat accordingly. So if there is any complete separation of the larynx from the trachea, then it will do the end-to-end anastomosis. The complications are very rare if we treat the patient properly. There is a stenosis of the larynx or supraglottis or subglottic lesion, pericarditis and the laryngeal abscess development and the open heart paralysis. So then coming to the second topic, today's second topic is this stridor. So what is the definition of the stridor, Chanakya? Do you know? Stridor. Anybody in the class stridor? What is stridor? Chanakya, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Please tell me the definition of the stridor. Have you heard this terminology stridor?
Whistling sound heard while taking breath, sir.
Whistling sound. Whistling sound. So this is not whistling sound. It is a noisy respiration. So they feel the difficulty for the inspiration and expiration, noisy respiration. So noisy respiration due to the turbulence of the airflow due to the narrowing in the upper airway. So this is the definition. Stridor is a noisy respiration produced by the turbulent airflow through the narrowed air passages. Okay, this is the correct definition for the stridor. It is a noisy respiration produced by turbulent of airflow through the narrowed air passages. So all of you by heart this definition, stridor definition is important. It is a noisy respiration, not the whistling sound. So whistling sound or some crackling sound, we call it as a this is not a whistling sound, noisy respiration. Okay. The whistling sound, those we call it as a wheeze. Wheeze or stutter. Okay. So noisy respiration produced by turbulent of airflow through the narrowed air passages. So it may be heard during inspiration, expiration, or both biphasic. So if it is only during the inspiration, that is called the inspiratory stridor. Only during the expiration, if you heard this stridor, that is the expiratory stridor. So depending upon the site of the lesion or site of the problem, then they'll have the patients will have the different types of the stridor. So these are the types of the stridor: inspiratory, expiratory, and the biphasic. So if they are having the only the stridor, some noisy respiration only during the inspiration, that is called the inspiratory stridor. Only during the expiration, expiratory stridor. So usually we'll see the, if there is a problem in the upper airway, that is in the supraglottis or in the pharynx region, then we'll see the this inspiratory stridor. The examples are the laryngomalacia and the retropharyngeal abscess. Expiratory stridor, if there is a problem in the lower respiratory tree, so lower respiratory tract, then we'll see the this expiratory stridor, that is the trachea and the bronchi. So if there is any bronchial foreign body or this tracheal stenosis. Biphasic stridor, if there is a problem in the glottis and the subglottis, then you will see a biphasic stridor. That is the both during inspiration and the expiration. So this stridor is a not a disease per se; it is just a symptom or a symptom. Okay. So the patient will present with the noisy respiration. We need to evaluate the patient. Then you need to find out what is the cause for this stridor. Then you need to treat the accordingly. So etiology may be vary from the nose to the tracheobronchial tree. If there is a problem in the nose, tongue, or mandible, pharynx, larynx, trachea, and the bronchi. So all these sites involvement of the some problem or some obstruction in the nose, nasopharynx, tongue, mandible, pharynx will cause the this development of the stridor. So these are the various etiology for this stridor. In the nose, spinal atresia in the newborn and macroglasia. So very big tongue will cause the this big tongue will obstruct the oropharynx and the pharyngeal wall region during the inspiration. Then they will develop the inspiratory stridor. Macroglasia is the big size tongue. So the etiology may be the reasons for the macroglasia are the cretinism, hemangioma, lymphangioma, or dermoid at the base of the tongue, and lingual thyroid. So some mass lesions in the tongue will cause the macroglasia. Mandible micrognathia, that is very small tongue, or retrognathia. So backward position of the tongue will cause the falling of the tongue into the oropharynx, then they develop the this stridor. So Pirie-Robbins syndrome, in this case, stridor is due to the falling back of the tongue. Pharynx, congenital dermoid in the pharyngeal lesion, acrotonsillar hypertrophy in the oropharynx, retropharyngeal abscess, and tumors. In the larynx, it may be congenital or acquired. In the congenital lesions are the laryngeal web. We have discussed about all these congenital problems of the larynx, laryngeal web, laryngomalacia, that is the excessive soft tissues in the supraglottic region. Cysts in the larynx and vocal cord paralysis and the subglottic stenosis. Those are the congenital problems which cause this pattern. So among those, laryngomalacia is the most common cause for the laryngeal stridor, congenital laryngeal stridor. Inflammatory lesions of the larynx, epiglottitis. Infective conditions of the larynx, we have discussed about the acute epiglottitis. So there is a sudden edematous epiglottis caused by the Haemophilus influenza type B. So bacteria, that is Haemophilus influenza type B, that will cause the sudden edema. Usually we see in the children. And laryngotracheitis, that is the true acute laryngotracheobronchitis or laryngotracheitis, both bacterial and the viral, diphtheria and the tuberculosis. Neoplastic conditions, hemangioma and the juvenile multiple papilloma, carcinoma, benign and malignant lesions of the larynx, and traumatic injury to the larynx. Just now we have discussed about the injury to the larynx. So trauma to the larynx, foreign bodies in the larynx, edema following endoscopy or prolonged intubation, neurogenic causes like bilateral local cord paralysis, and miscellaneous conditions like tetanus, tetany, and the laryngismus stridulus. Trachea and bronchi, causes from the trachea and bronchi like congenital again here, atresia stenosis in the tracheomalacia like laryngomalacia, excessive soft laryngeal cartilage, tracheal cartilage, that is the tracheomalacia. Inflammatory conditions, tracheobronchitis, neoplastic conditions, tumors of the trachea, traumatic conditions like foreign body or blunt injury to the tracheal lesion or the chest. Lesions outside the respiratory tract also will cause the compression over the larynx and the trachea, then they develop the stridor. So congenital vascular rings around the this laryngeal region and the upper tracheal region will cause the compression over the trachea. Then they develop the stridor. Esophageal atresia, tracheoesophageal fistula, congenital goiter, cystic hygroma, inflammatory conditions, retropharyngeal and retroesophageal abscess, traumatic conditions, foreign body esophagus. So foreign body esophagus will cause the compression over the posterior wall of the larynx, then they develop the stridor. Tumors or masses in the neck will also cause the compression over the trachea and the upper respiratory tract. So then coming to the evaluation of the patient with the stridor. So you need to ask the patient proper history so that you can know the onset of the stridor and the severity of the stridor. So time of onset, whether it is cause is congenital or acquired. If it is since childhood or birth, then you can it is the congenital stridor. So to rule out whether it is congenital cause or acquired cause, you need to ask the patient. If their children are neonates, you need to ask whether it is since from the birth or it is developed later. Mode of onset, if it is sudden onset, you should suspect some either problem in the laryngeal region or edema of the foreign body, or it is gradual or progressive in onset, then you should suspect the laryngomalacia and subglottic hemangioma, those kind of the problems. Duration, whether it is shorter duration or the longer duration. Short duration will see in the acute conditions, foreign body or edema or the infections. Longer durations like tumors, benign tumors or laryngomalacia. So then you should ask the patients or patient attendants relation to the feeding. If their children are neonates, ask the attendants aspiration in the laryngeal, if they are having the aspiration into the lower respiratory tract while swallowing, then you should suspect these conditions: laryngeal paralysis, esophageal atresia, laryngeal cleft, vascular ring, and foreign body esophagus. Cyanotic spells, if they are associated with the that indicates the need for the airway maintenance, aspiration or ingestion of the foreign body. Cyanotic spells. Laryngeal trauma, blunt injury to the larynx or intubation or endoscopy. Then physical examination, that is about the history. So physical examination, stridor always associated with the respiratory distress. So severe respiratory obstruction will cause the stridor. There may be a restriction in the suprasternal arch or retraction of the suprasternal arch, sternum, intercostal spaces, or epigastrium during the inspiratory efforts. So, and also you should observe whether the patient with the stridor, you need to observe whether the stridor is inspiratory, expectory, or biphasic. If it is inspiratory, you should suspect the problem in the upper part of the larynx or in the pharynx. So if it is biphasic, you should suspect problem in the glottis, subglottis. If it is expiratory, then you should suspect the trachea and the bronchial problems. And also you should observe these findings, associated symptoms. If it is associated with the snoring or snorting sound, then you should suspect the nasal and the nasopharyngeal problem. Gurgling sound or muffled voice. So you should suspect some mass in the muffled voice or gurgling sound in the oropharynx. Hoarse cry or voice, hoarseness of the voice, definitely there is a problem in the vocal cord region or the glottic region. Expiratory wheeze, some bronchial problem, expiratory wheeze or expiratory obstruction. So if it is associated with stridor associated with this severe fever for the past 2 to 3 days, you should suspect some infectivity also. So like acute laryngitis, epiglottitis, laryngotracheal bronchitis. So stridor of laryngomalacia, micrognathia, macroglasia, and innominate artery compression over the this tracheal region, innominate artery compression. So all these stridors developed by these etiologies, they will reduce by placing the baby in the prone position. So if you place the baby in the prone position, if it is subsides or if it is decreased in severity, then you should suspect it these problems, most commonly laryngomalacia. So the stridor with the laryngomalacia will decrease if you place the baby in the home position. So that is important clinical observation. If the child is present with the inspiratory stridor, you should place the baby in the prone position, then observe for the stridor. If it is decreased, you should suspect these problems, upper problems like macroclasia, micropnathia, laryngomalacia, and the innominate artery compression of the larynx and the upper trachea. So then next examination is the sequential auscultation over the open mouth with the unaided ear or by using the stethoscope over the nose, open mouth, neck and chest. It will help to locate the site of the lesion. So you should place the stethoscope, then hear the sound, so that you can know the site of the obstruction is of the stridor. Examination of the nose, tongue, jaw, and the larynx can explore the local pathology. These local examination you can do by using the simple OPD examination or by using a flexible laryngoscopy. So in adult, you can do by using the indirect laryngoscopy, or in children, definitely you need the pediatric age group, you need the flexible laryngoscopy because they are not cooperative. It is difficult to do the indirect laryngoscopy or direct laryngoscopy in the children. So flexible fiber optic laryngoscopy, just now I have showed in the this laryngotracheal trauma. So by using the flexible scope, by passing that flexible scope through the nostrils, through the anterior nostril, will reach the choana, then will pass into the nasopharynx, then into the oropharynx. So it can be done under the local anesthesia by spraying the this pharyngeal mucosa to get the to anesthetize the pharyngeal mucosa and the laryngeal mucosa. Then you can pass this scope. Then you can examine the parts of the larynx under magnetic pressure. Parts of the larynx, nose, all from the nose you can examine them by using the flexible laryngoscopy. Nose and posterior part of the nasal cavity, that is the choana. There is a problem or obstruction in the choana, or if there is problem in the nasopharynx or the larynx. So like laryngomalacia, open cut paralysis, laryngeal papillomatosis, any cysts or benign tumors, any subluxary problem also you can see by using a flexible laryngoscopy. So that is simple procedure under local anesthesia by spraying the nose and the nasopharynx and the larynx. You can pass the flexible scope. You can examine all the structures under magnification. Soft tissue laterally of the neck, no than any foreign bodies in the larynx or trachea. X-ray test both inspiratory and expiratory phase to know to locate any radiolucent foreign bodies in the chest, like in the lower part of the trachea of the front. CT scan with contrast also will help the any mass in the mediastinum or any radiolucent foreign bodies. So angiography and histogram. Angiography, if you are suspecting any vascular compression over the trachea and the bronchi, then you should go for the angiography. Histogram with the contrast material to rule out the uh, this tracheobronchial fistula. The other investigations are the direct laryngoscopy, bronchoscopy, and the microlaryngoscopy. So all these investigations to locate to know what is the exact cause for the stridor. Okay, stridor is a symptom; it is not a disease. So it is caused by some problem in the from the nose to the tracheobronchial tree. So other investigations: direct laryngoscopy, bronchoscopy, and the microlaryngoscopy. So direct laryngoscopy usually do in the operation theater under general anesthesia by preparing the patient for the resuscitative measures. So because will cause this both, it will cause some edema in the laryngeal lesion or some compression. So that's why you need to like arrangements for the emergency tracheostomy. You need to arrange resuscitative measures, then attempt for the this direct laryngoscopy. So and also patient is monitored with the pulse oximeter, oxygen saturation, pulse, blood pressure, and electrocardiography. That is the ECG services, and expert anesthetist is also essential for doing this direct laryngoscopy. So by doing the direct laryngoscopy, you can examine the part of the larynx, supraglottal. supraglottis glottis region, and bronchoscopy. After examination of the this laryngoscopy, immediately can take a rigid or flexible bronchoscopy, then pause the this bronchoscopy. Bronchoscopy also will do under general anesthesia. Then you can see if there is any problem in the trachea and the bronchi. If there is secretions, if there is secretions, you can collect those secretions for the culture and sensitivity. If there is any foreign body, you can remove the foreign body. Examination of the larynx and esophagus. Microlaryngoscopy also, like direct laryngoscopy with intubation, patient is on spontaneous breathing. In microlaryngoscopy, we will not put the endotracheal tube, so they will give the forceful oxygenation to the lungs. That is the jet ventilation. Then we need to examine the larynx. So that is the microlaryngoscopy. Under magnification, can use the telescope for the magnification of the structures to see the structures in the larynx. So that is about the this stridor. So once the diagnosis has been made, then you should treat the cause, treat the exact cause for the stridor. So any patients with this stridor and suspecting any problem in the upper tracheal region, first you need to do the tracheostomy. So you need to bypass the obstruction in the larynx or this glottic region or supraglottic region, bypass the region by making a stoma in the anterior wall of the neck, that is the tracheostomy. So making a stoma that is converting into the opening into the anterior part of the neck, that is the tracheostomy. So immediate treatment is tracheostomy, then you should stabilize the patient, then you should evaluate the patient what is the cause for the stridor, then you should treat the cause. So that is the tracheostomy is a life-saving procedure, immediate to get the relief from the stridor, immediate tracheostomy, followed by assessment of the patient, followed by the exact treatment for the cause of the stridor. Okay. Any doubts, students? Any doubts?